All right, we did it. Hello, everybody. My name is Crystal and Sophia. I am your friendly astrological magician and folk magic practitioner, and it's our Monday Magic Mood Boost, which I'm really excited about because so many of you are already here, and I've been sitting here just dying to start the recording on time so that I could talk to you more. Hi, Jackie. Hi, Amber. Hi, Jenny and Russ and Rocio. I get to see some of you next weekend, and I'm really excited. So, first thing that I should admit here is next Monday, there's not going to be a live broadcast because I'm going to be in Lake Tahoe wrapping up an amazing weekend from Sacred Spaces Getaway, which is basically like a spiritual sleepover. It's going to be amazing. I get to teach people how to make incense. We're going to be making talismans using sigil magic. And that's just some of the stuff that I get to do. I get to do 2 different planetary invocations because by that time, not only is the sun still going to be exalted, but Venus is coming out of retrograde, and we're going to celebrate that with her. And hi, Kay. And today we actually get to celebrate Mercury is out of retrograde. So Mercury is no longer moving backwards. There is a caveat to that, right? Like just because Mercury is not moving backwards anymore does not mean Mercury is darting forwards and everything is back to normal for Mercury. So just remember, like when you're running in one direction and you stop and try to pivot and go the other way, you have to stop, pause, turn around, and then go. Mercury is stationary for like, give him 3 days or so. And then things will pick up speed, move back to normal. And by the time we get to Saturday and our full moon in Libra, Venus later that day will go direct. She'll do the same thing, take a couple days to pick up speed. And then we have all planets moving direct between this Saturday, the 12th, and May 4th, which is when Pluto goes retrograde. But Pluto's like so far out there, it's not even that personal of a retrograde. That's going to be more like a societal thing where some of the headlines of things going all over the place might slow down a little bit. So we actually have quite a nice amount of time of the personal planets moving direct. Venus and Mars are not going to do that again for over a year. So we're in the clear with that one. Mercury is going to take a couple months and then do it again. That's what Mercury does. But it's a nice time to be here. This is one of my favorite weeks so far this year. After this week, we've got some interesting stuff coming up. So I recommend, and this is actually, and it's all free, so don't worry about this, but I recommend subscribing to the Modern School of Ancient Wisdom's free tier on Patreon because I've got some newsletters coming up. There's extra for the student study tier, but there's some stuff coming up where I can let you know the nature of things that are happening in the astrology or that are at least anticipated to happen with the astrology, given some metaphorical timing from the United States Aries ingress, as well as the personal timing of a certain person in leadership here in the US. So there's some stuff coming up by the end of April that is going to be interesting to observe. And I will be kind of going over that. I already scheduled it, so you don't have to worry. I'll be traveling, but it will be scheduled because astrology is predictable. So I was able to look ahead at that and kind of write it all down. So if you're on the free tier, the Modern School of Ancient Wisdom, you will get that heads up. If you are in the student study tier, you're going to get even more details. I consider it a consent sort of thing. People in the student study tier say, yes, I am ready to know like the details of the astrology, everything that's going on. And I'm prepared to know like the highs and the lows and the everything in between. So that is the function of that student study tier. It's me giving you a chance to say, hey, I want to know what's going on, but like, don't give me an overwhelm. And that's what I do. If you want to be overwhelmed with the amazingness of astrology, you can join the student study tier where we are all geeking out constantly. So that is sort of our heads up for this morning. I'm glad everybody's doing all right. It is a gray day here. I'm you might notice, and you may not, which would be good. You might notice that my lighting here is a little bit dimmer than usual. We're working with some light sensitivity today. So I apologize that the lighting could be better, but I want to talk to you all without worrying about sensitivities with that. So here I am, and I'm very happy about it. No more microwave. Exactly. Mercury is no longer in the microwave, Gatorade, any of those things. We're all good. Thank you, Jenny. I'm glad the lighting works for you guys. Oh man, cool. Catching up on the comments super fast. We're doing great. Awesome. And hello, Hunter. Good morning. Yay. So Liz is also here. Good morning, Liz. Hi. I think I covered everybody so far. As you join, I'm going to keep saying hi because I appreciate you all. Right. Also, Amber is actually committed and joining us here from their trip to London. And it's really cool that during this period of time that Amber is staying in London, she's still tuning in with us. And I appreciate you, Amber. Just want you to know that. So hearts and snaps or whatever you want to do to let Amber know that that is so appreciated. And we love to see it. And honestly, like I function so much better when Amber is here. So I appreciate it a lot. I actually get to fly out tomorrow toward Lake Tahoe. We're doing a couple things ahead of that. But yeah, way to go, Amber. This is awesome. Yeah. See, Amber, look at how amazing you are. And I'm so glad you all are fantastic in celebrating each other. You guys always are. It's one of the things I appreciate most about you. Yeah, literally on the train. Oh my gosh. I hope you're going to do something really cool, Amber. That's awesome. Yeah. So how's everybody doing? Amber's on the train, hopefully still enjoying your time. This week in astrology, things are a little bit, I want to say a little bit more docile, but we'll get into it. Just saw the Rosetta Stone. Oh, so you're in London. You went to the museum. Isn't it cool? I have a personal like soft spot for the Rosetta Stone. I really love it. Wish it were still where it belonged, but you know, it is what it is currently. Found a fun way to connect with different goddesses, a goddess coloring book from Five Below. You gotta love how they'll find you wherever they can meet you. Isn't it great? That's really cool, Jenny. I'm glad you found that. Some of the students in the student study tier this week were talking about how different deities and fae were trying to reach out to them and get their attention. And it's been really funny to hear how that goes. Hunter has been studying. You have your LSAT this week. All of the good energy to you. I really like this actually for you, Hunter, because Mercury, like I said, will be going direct. Mercury does a lot of mental stuff, calculations, education, that kind of stuff. With Mercury direct, the energy is much easier to navigate. So hopefully that just puts some even more wind in your sails, along with all the amazing work I know you're doing. That's the thing about astrology too, right? Like we earn things of our own merit and all of those things. And sometimes the astrology makes it easier. And sometimes the astrology gives us a little bit of a hurdle. This week, it'll make it hopefully easier. And I hope it goes really well. Kay, I was at a homeschooling field day event this Saturday, and the moms and dad competed in a tug of war, and the moms won. Yeah, they did. That's so cool. I love that. Yeah, awesome. Cool. I love what you guys have been up to. On Saturday, I participated in the Hands Off event here in Richmond, which was super fun. It was so cool to be surrounded by literally thousands of people that felt safe. And I really appreciated that. So we had a really good time. Angela is here. So excited I get to see Angela soon again for the Sacred Spaces event like I was talking about. Good morning, Angela. I hope everybody is staying hydrated, drinking something that makes you happy and feel joyful, whether it's coffee, tea, water, anything else. I actually know people that used to drink Mountain Dew in the morning, but that's where I come from. So Mountain Dew was just like coffee for us in the coal region. That's so cool, Misty. I love the stories that you're sharing. Yeah, good vibes for Hunter's LSAT. Everybody think really good thoughts, and it works. It helps. So it's kind of like when you perform in front of an audience, and you know when the audience is really like they're supporting you, and you do even better. That's kind of how energy works in that sense too. So today is Mercury direct, and you can tell a little bit because I'm talking really fast. Mercury is my time lord this year, but we have sort of a relationship anyway in my natal chart. So I do talk really fast, and I'm not stumbling over my words as much, knock on wood, as I normally would during a Mercury retrograde. I am actually wearing my sorry for what I said while Mercury was in retrograde shirt because it's a sweater and we're coming into the hotter season. So I haven't been able to wear it as much. So I figured, this is my last shot. Even though Mercury is currently direct, I can still be sorry for what I said when it was retrograde. So I'm actually not. It went really well, all things considered. There were bumps, there were scheduling snafus out the wazoo, but everything worked out really well. And everybody that was involved, we were able to laugh about it, which I think is a really good lesson when there's a couple more retrogrades going on. I was going to say a couple Mercury retrogrades, but Mercury is only one planet. I meant Venus and Mercury retrograding at the same time. And it was really nice to have that awareness of like, nobody's at fault. We're just all dealing with some calculation situations of like time zones and all that stuff. And we can laugh at it. It doesn't have to be a lot of pressure. So it's a really good takeaway. Yeah, so thanks, Liz. I'm glad you guys like the sweater. My sister-in-law made this for me one Christmas, and it's been one of my favorites. It's actually really cozy too. So I adore it a lot. Yeah. So if you do have questions, I'm here for it, whether it's folk magic, theology, astrology, metaphysics of any sort, healing, whatever it is. If it's spiritual, I probably can talk at least to a point about it. And if I am limited, I can likely point you in a direction of a resource that knows it better. Um, yes, I see a couple of you saw what my sign said over the weekend. Thank you for checking that out. It was fun because I really love Mary Poppins, and that's about as much of a hint as I'll give on this. If you want to see what my sign said, my most recent posts, probably not most recent, but recent-ish on Instagram and Blue Sky will show you that. There's a video first of all the amazing people that were there, and then you swipe and you'll see my sign as well on Instagram. But it was inspired by supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. So if you've seen that online already, you know what I'm talking about. And I'm not even sorry. I mean, I don't even wish I could say that I was. But I'm glad that you guys liked it. It made me really happy. There were so many creative signs that day. That was just really cool to see people expressing creativity in that sense, and then to see the reaction kind of across the country and even in other countries was really cool. So one of the highlights of my year so far, for sure. No apologizing whatsoever. That is true. I'm sorry for what I said during Mercury retrograde, except for what my sign said. Cool. So, like I said, today we have a couple things going on actually. So, we have Mercury that has already stationed direct, kind of still standing still on the south node in fall and detriment. So, if you're still like, "Yo, Mercury, what's the deal?" It's because Mercury is kind of drunk and queasy right now. So, we want to give Mercury a little bit of grace. Mercury will be feeling better around the 16th of April when they get into Aries and out of Pisces, where they tend to struggle. I will say though, Mercury in Pisces is fantastic for art because it's sort of communication without boundaries, right? So Mercury, if we're talking about like oration and calculation and all these things, even divination, I would kind of put towards the art side with this, depending on what you're using. If you're trying to get really into the system of divination, it might be a struggle. But if you're really tapping into your own intuition, the communication without boundaries idea is really a Mercury and Pisces qualifier. Like it works. So if you're a poet, this is a really great time. If you write songs, this is a really great time. I'm working on an outline for my next book, and it's okay. So I'm in outlining, so it's kind of a struggle, but the ideas are coming in, and it's very helpful. So you can think about that kind of stuff and really lean into that right now, getting more structured and more kind of productive with our information, calculations, communications, all those things can wait until the 16th of April. And if it can't, you'll probably do fine in the meantime. Like, don't worry, don't stress yourself out if something has to happen. I have had some very important conversations over the last few weeks while Mercury has been in retrograde. And they've all gone really well. But again, we approach them with a sense of humor, which is important. Also, a lot of deep mental work, like therapy and psychology and all that kind of stuff, goes really well with this right now. So, for example, and I hope this isn't too deep of an example, but one of the things that I've been using Mercury and Pisces for has been EMDR with my therapist. Really easy to access that subconscious area and really draw out the things that need to be processed. Do that with the guidance of a professional like a therapist if you're going to do it. But just letting you know that those kinds of things are really fantastic. Um, Danny, hi Danny, good to see you. I know Danny's going to be flying out soon too. Wishing us all the best travel. Those of us who are traveling this week, if you're traveling to Sacred Spaces Getaway or anything else, Mercury is direct, so it's a little bit better. Expect kind of less delays. Like tomorrow, I know Mercury is still a little bit stationary, so as I'm flying out, I'm expecting that there may be some delays and stuff, because the stationing days of a planet's retrograde are pretty poignant for them. So I I flew back from Egypt the day Mercury stationed retrograde. Now I'm flying out again right around the day that Mercury stations direct. So I pick them real well. Sometimes life just happens though, and that's okay. All right, going to catch up here. Hunter says, I worked Saturday, but luckily the hands off event was across the street from my job and I went to my lunch break. Yay, that's so cool. And you ran into your old teacher. Yeah, we had a lot of people during the March portion who came outside of their businesses and like played music for us or were cheering at that moment. And it was really, really cool. So many people when we had to cross the street. And if anybody, I don't know if anybody's watching from my area, but I want to give a huge shout out to, we had bike marshals helping to keep everything safe. So like when we were crossing the street, they would put their bikes in the street so that the cars wouldn't be able to like go. And it was a really safe and secure feeling. And I really appreciated that. And most of the cars were honking in support. So that also felt really good. So hopefully everybody who did have an experience with that this weekend, it was a positive one. Liz, love me some EMDR. Trust is a must with the therapist. 100%. Yes. Yeah, cool. Good morning, Jessa. Good to see you. So, along with Mercury's direct station today, which is the hallmark, gotta say, Saturn is also, Venus is conjoining with Saturn because she's the one doing most of the moving, but they are conjoined now. So, while we have Mercury now on the South Node, and getting ready to move direct. So now we'll move away from the South Node. Venus and Saturn are only 1 degree away. So Mercury's at 26 degrees. The South Node is at 26 degrees. And that just adds, and I apologize, it's the North Node. Mercury and the North Node are at 26 degrees. And therefore, that adds an intensity to Mercury, right? There's this certain like amplification to what Mercury is doing. So paying attention to the headlines right now of confusion. Will this, won't this? This was something we didn't anticipate and now we're dealing with. There could be situations if we draw in how close Saturn and Venus are, of the Saturnian concepts of feeling restricted, feeling barren, feeling like you're lacking something. And then also the idea of Venus and her idea for abundance, her idea for, some people will throw finances in with Venus. Some people will throw finances in with Mercury when talking about planetary ownership of money. Usually that's second house topics. But when we're talking about a planet in transit signifying something, I will say this is happening in the second house of the Aries ingress for the United States. So a lot of this by transit is activating that second house situation. If you want to know more about that, I have a full video here on YouTube called the 2025 Aries ingress overview. You can check out what I'm talking about there. And if you'd like, I will show the chart here and explain it a little bit too. I plan on doing that when I get back. So in 2 weeks, there is some timing coming up that is really going to start activating that even more, the second house of the Aries ingress. But right now, we're kind of getting a preview of it. So there's a lot of intense energy around topics. Because Mercury and Venus are both involved with Saturn, there is this sort of, if you think about Mercury as the exchange of resources, of values, of money and currencies, and then Venus of the value of the thing, of who decides what's valuable, of what is important being involved. So there's you can see how they're both associated with that. And Saturn, of course, restricts things, lessens things. Then the North Node says, hey, make that louder. We're going to make this really intense about it. And so you might end up seeing in the headlines right now situations around that stuff. And we already are. I will admit it is in the headlines right now that the markets are a topic of discussion. That's a great way that I can put it. So let's see. So, okay, I'm looking at some of the comments that I missed while I was explaining that. Everybody's just saying hello to each other. Cool. All right. Great. Awesome. Yeah, so that's kind of what we're seeing today. If you're wondering, like, why are the headlines blowing up like that? The transits are also activating a certain part of the Aries ingress chart for the United States. Of course, because of the topics of the United States, they're connected as a world. We are connected. So some things are also showing up in other countries because it is not, we're not like a mutually exclusive topic right now. We're talking about things that do affect each other. We are always in connection with various people around the world, right, as a nation. So that is something that can come up where you're like, it's global though, it's not just the US. Yeah, but it's something the US is experiencing that is having the effect elsewhere as well. So that can kind of help us make sense. Misty says, I recall many say that energy of money is similar to energy of trust. Do you perceive it that way too? I do. And I'm going to tell you why. Yeah, ding ding, my phone agrees. I love when that happens. I'm glad you guys can hear it too, because it adds to the affirmation of it. So, the energy of money and the energy of trust. Here's the thing: money is given kind of way too much credit in our current day and age. It used to be that you would exchange some service, or think about days of trade and barter, right? It was, what's the value? Like, one cow would equal how many loaves of bread, one this would equal how many of that, and you had to decide what the worth was based on how you felt about it. To me, one cow is worth this many loaves of bread, or however you would say that. Then we just kind of made it a very baseline thing by assigning money to it a very long time ago. And so that became this standardized thing, and we kind of forgot all the fringe things about it and all the things that were behind it and what it actually represents to us, because it becomes so forward, saying this one thing is what I'm going to focus on because it gets me the other things. But then when we think, oh, right, that's what it represents and that's what it's telling us, we can get into some more finer topics about it. So here's the thing about the value of something. So if you think about money as value and you think about how you value something, you place your value into something that you trust. You place your value, you place your trust into something that you're willing to commit to. When we talk about an exchange of energy, money is the same thing. When you are putting money towards something, you are putting your interest, your focus, and you're saying, I value this. I think it is worth me contributing to it. Energetically, here is how I am going to physically show that, by giving it this token, this money, this paper. And so that is a very similar thing. When we take the money out of the equation and we just work energetically by intention or in bartering, it becomes a lot clearer. I trust you, so I'll work with you. I trust you and what you bring because I've read your reviews or anything like that. And therefore, I will invest in this. So to me, absolutely, especially when you go and think about how Taurus is associated with physical resources. The second house is your physical resources. Taurus likes to provide physical resources, but Taurus and Scorpio on the opposite side, they both deal with requiring trust. They both really value trust as a personality trait in other people. And I have a lot of Taurus and Scorpio in my chart, so I can agree with this heavily. And so when you think about it from that perspective of, do I trust this? Cool, then I will lend my energy to it. It makes total sense. And that's how you can kind of make those work together if you ever wanted a way to remember it that way. So I hope that helps. Yeah, I love instinct confirmations too, Jessa. It's really, really helpful. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Also, my family group chat is doing the New York Times games of the day. So it's going to go off a lot right now because the family wakes up at different times. I do mine at like 5 a.m. and I do it all in one message, which is a novelty. But some of them like to do one at a time and send it out immediately. So I apologize if the phone goes off a lot. There may be a lot of things I say today that get a notification with that. Misty, I'm glad that helped. Do you guys want to hear a fun story that happened this week that is super cool when it comes to spirituality? I posted about it very briefly on Blue Sky, but I would love to share it with you here. It involves a corgi and an archangel and a tennis ball. And so if that sounds good to you, I will go ahead and talk about it. And also, I'm aware that by the end of this broadcast, if you want, we can do a bit of a rant on Chiron. I can probably prepare even more and do a better rant on Chiron later. So we'll see how the energy of today goes. So over the weekend, my dog Jack, who is a corgi, he is a red corgi. So he's one of those like the blonder, redder tinted hair. If you know Hammy and Olivia online, he's more like Hammy. Yeah. And he's precious and I love him. And he's such a sweet little dope and he's the best. And he's a Scorpio. He has this one ball. You want to talk about putting value in something? There is one type of ball that this dog will prioritize over any other. And it's this special Nerf ball that came with it came with a launcher. I bought a launcher when he was a puppy so that he could run more and I would be able to stay in the same place. And I would launch this ball, but he loved the squishiness of it. Like he loves to chew on it. He would go and get it and bring it back. And then he decided that all other balls were secondary to this ball and they discontinued this ball. So, yes, I bought them in bulk off of eBay and now have a bunch because when one just gives out, we need to replace it with another one. And we have enough that we hope will last the rest of his life. So he never has to live a day without one of these balls that he loves. But he lost one over the weekend. And I was trying to figure out where it was, but it could be anywhere because he'll roll it under stuff and he'll cry at the thing that it's under. But when he doesn't know where it is, he starts wandering in the house and he'll like look at you and be like, "Where is it?" And then you're like, "I don't know, go find it." And he'll go to all the usual places and he was not finding this ball. And so I work with the energy of an archangel named Metatron who has connections to my dad. And so I know that my dad and Jack have a really strong bond. And so sometimes I'll call Metatron Metadad because he's connected to my dad. And I have a special pendulum I use. The one I showed, actually I did this on another live somewhere. I have a special pendulum I use that has a Merkaba at the end of it. It was a birthday gift that I received last year from M because she went into a shop trying to replace a pendulum for me because we got our house cleaned the one day and the ladies who were really kind to help us clean the house took my pendulum and put it in the fairy offering bowl and it doesn't work anymore. It just goes nuts and does not like actually respond when I try to get it to do pendulum things. So she was going in to replace my pendulum. Yeah, it belongs to the Fae now. It's fine. But she was trying to replace my pendulum. She walked in and immediately felt the presence of Metadad and got directed over towards a certain pendulum that had a Merkaba on it. And so she bought this pendulum for me and gave it to me for my birthday last year. And so that is my Metadad pendulum. It's like my direct line to Metadad. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to let Metadad find this ball because I don't know where it is and we have to get going, but I'm not going to let Jack be miserable because that would break my heart. And so Dan was with me and Dan is this, I want to call him like a functional skeptic. He's been with me for over a decade. He knows what I do. He has seen really impressive things, but he still really likes it when he experiences something firsthand. And I can appreciate that too. I do too. I just happen to have a lot of stories now that make it really easy for me to believe that it's natural and happens every day. So yeah, right. And it's the pendulum that got given to the fairies, Amber, has an evil eye on it. So I'm just like, you can use it all you want. Just help protect the house with it and I'll be happy. So my Metadad pendulum, let me know if you want to see it. I'll jump off screen for a second and bring it in so you can see. And when I grabbed it off of my little altar that I have over here, I've got altars everywhere. But I grabbed it off the altar over here. I stood in my office, so like literally a foot from where I am right now. And I'm in this whole space. So the office starts over here, but it goes into the room over this way. And there's a lot of things the ball could have rolled under. So I said, okay, are you here? And usually when I'm working with this pendulum, it's a circle. We do clockwise or counterclockwise for yes, clockwise or counterclockwise for no. I ask for it to show me yes or no so I know what I'm working with every time. So I got a swing when I got the are you here? I got a show me yes, show me no. Metadad, are you with me? Yes. So we're good, right? We've calibrated, we know what's going on. And it's swinging in a circle. I said, okay, thank you. And it stops. I said, show me the direction of Jack's ball. And it swings towards the hallway. And I was like, okay. So I moved towards the hallway. And down the hallway, you can either go immediately to your left into the kitchen, immediately to your right into the laundry room. Then there's a next right, which is a bathroom. And then straight through is the living room. We were pretty sure the ball wasn't in the living room because we had already gotten on the floor and looked under everything there. So I stopped where the kitchen and the laundry room are. And I said, okay, from here, because it had been swinging this way, I said, thank you, it stopped. I said, okay, show me which direction to go now. And it swings the other way. And it swings towards first the laundry room. So I was like, okay, we'll say the laundry room. I go in, I start moving the dogs' bins around, their food bins, to see if it got behind there or something. Because I'm like, it can't be in clear sight, right? Because I would have seen it. Jack would have found it. So I start moving things first. And I said out loud to Dan, if I find it in here, I'm going to laugh so hard. And so I turn around and in the open on the floor, right in front of the laundry, is the ball. And so Metadad helped us find Jack's ball. I don't know why Jack didn't find Jack's ball. That's a whole other story. But Metadad helped us find Jack's ball. And Dan happened to be watching the entire time. So I'm hoping that this is an experience he adds to his own lexicon as well. As an archangel helped find our dogs. lost ball. And Dan even said to Jack, like, you should feel so special. You're blessed by an angel. And I'm sure Jack has absolutely no idea, but he feels special anyway. So that's the story of how Metadad helped me find the missing ball for Jack, who is really important to my dad. So yeah, cool story, really fun, best part of my weekend. And then after that, we got to go to the march. So I guess this was on Saturday, but it really made me happy to have that experience. Yeah. Not the fave bowl. Yeah, I hope they still have fun with it. They're probably using like an energetic version of the pendulum that the cleaners sacrifice to the fae. But yeah, cool. Metadad ball compass pendulum. Yes, it is very special. It is. Puppy and special ball reunited. This special puppy and special ball. I got to tell you, if he were anywhere near me right now, I would pick him up. You'd probably hear him honk because he honks when you pick him up. You pick him up and he goes, huh? And it's adorable. But yes, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised, Russ, if Metadad did just want to show off for Dan. It's definitely appropriate to the time that we're living in right now in our household. Yeah. Angela, I'm glad you love this story. Perfect emoji. Yeah. So that's my fun story about how like magical stuff just happens in normal day. In case you were wondering how that can work. And if you have stories that you're like, oh yeah, that did happen to me too. Now you know, it's just how life works. Yeah. So it made me happy. It's always nice to sense that around. Yeah. So how about you guys? Do you guys have any stories that you want to share, or I can continue on into the astrology of this week? We've talked about Mercury having station direct this morning at 7:07 a.m. Eastern time, which is really cool. And then how Saturn and Venus are conjunct today. So we also brought all of that together. So rewind this if you're just joining later when the replay is posted, and you can see how that'll work. Just letting people know, because all that is on the North Node, this is why our headlines have been a little bit tense today. They probably will continue to be, but just know the aspect between Venus and Saturn, the aspect between Mercury and the North Node is separating, so that should ease up. And as of right now, Venus is past Saturn as well, so that aspect will begin to ease up probably after today, like give it a sec. But yes. Yes, Jessa on 327, or 227, you had something cool happen. Feel free to share it in the comments. We all love to hear it. The more we share our stories, the more it's allowed to be normal for magic to happen every day, everywhere. So this is good. Yes, tomorrow Mercury will, let's see, hang on. I don't believe that. I'm looking at the wrong week, I guess. Or is Saturn might be moving a little bit faster than Mercury right now. I'll have to look. Sometimes I don't trust the, no, I don't trust that. So my one thing is saying that Mercury is going to conjoin Saturn tomorrow, but like, I know better because Mercury is already ahead of Saturn and Mercury is fast. That's not how it's going to work. So that's probably just a typo in the thing. Tomorrow is April 8th. That's 1 month until my birthday. And I just realized it. That's really exciting. Later this week, though, on April 11th, we do have, and I'm going to confirm this with my actual chart, we do have Mercury will trine Mars. So that's actually happening. And then, of course, on the 12th, this is my, I want to say favorite day of the week. Venus goes direct. Love it, need it, really want it right now. And we also have our Libra full moon. This is the first full moon happening after the eclipse season. Venus is still technically retrograde during the full moon's absolute perfection, but the moon stays full for a while. So I would actually recommend waiting until like Sunday to do any Libra full moon stuff that you'd want to do, just because it gives Venus a second to pick up the pace. The sun is exalted on this day. We do have, though, I'm going to bring this chart up for myself to make sure I get the information correct for you guys. We do have Mars in a pretty interesting position on this day because Mars is in Cancer, the moon is in Libra. Those are two cardinal signs, and the moon is going to be at 23 degrees. Mars is at 27, which means the moon, who moves faster, is applying to Mars, and that is a square aspect. So normally we'd be like, ooh, this is really pretty. It's a Venus-ruled moon, and it's a full moon, and there's no eclipses to worry about, and Venus is stationing direct, and that's pretty great, right? It's still pretty nice, but there's a lot of ambition that goes along with this, and Mars being square square to this and overcoming square the moon and also being the next application of the moon, there may be some opportunity for some hurt feelings. What I'm going to say with this, though, is that listen through anything that someone says that may put you in a position of feeling sensitive, because it is still a Libra full moon. This gives us clarity into two sides of a conversation. One side may give us some feelings that we have to cope with, but if we take a second to honor those feelings, we can then say, you know what, I do see your side. I honor your side. I validate your experience. Also, here's my side. Hopefully, the other person can validate and honor your experience. And then together, you can attack the source of the problem rather than going at each other. So you may notice that people who aren't as conscious with this energy are arguing around Saturday and the weekend. You can instead say, you know what, let's view this objectively. Here's how I feel. Here's how you feel. Here's what I need to feel safe. Here's what you need to feel safe or heard or seen. Now, how can we say that there's no one person at fault? There's a situation that requires attention. When you do that, you end up finding a lot more help. And I actually have I have studied this with therapists. So I do know that this is a good technique to employ. Make sure it's you two against the problem rather than you two against each other. We're going to be operating under that a lot over the weekend. If, like Rocio and Liz and Danny and Angela, you will be with me over the weekend in Tahoe. We will be honoring these feelings if they come up for you. I highly recommend, if you're packing, bring a journal. You should be bringing a journal anyway, because we're going to be doing some magic with it. But make sure you bring a journal so that if stuff comes up and you want to process it, you can give yourself that space. Really helpful. And if you just like type it out or give yourself a voice memo on your phone, that still counts. So it's fantastic. I actually have to remember to pack myself a journal for this weekend. I have the junk for the journal. I did not actually pack the journal yet. So I will do that post haste. Yeah. So let's see. Wow, we got some conversation going up and I love it. Let's see. Ren, hello, says that Mercury stationed at 5 a.m. there, and almost to the minute you woke up from the weirdest dream. I had a weird dream last night too. And I would never, I literally, in my dream, for some reason, became president. But it was fun. And then I was on a bus and I ran into my grandmother who passed away a couple of years ago. And I was like, Grandma, you wouldn't believe it. This is what's happening. And I hope I'm making you proud. And it's funny because this is the grandma that doesn't come through to me that much. I have another grandmother who passed away in 2021. She comes through to me on occasion, but this grandma has not come through a ton yet. I think she's been busy with other things. But yeah, so I've been seeing her a bit in my dreams, but they're also related to the EMDR work I'm doing. So differentiating between spiritual and psychological and allowing my brain to process what it needs to process, I'm giving it space. If she is trying to come through to me, I'm going to give her the opportunity to make that clear. But I hope your weird dream was a fun one. Amber went to the British Museum, was led straight to Sekhmet without consulting the map, literally didn't see the Rosetta Stone until looking as almost everything else, and it was a specific one. Yeah. So Sekhmet does that. Sekhmet is quite magnetic, especially since, Amber, I know you're working with Sekhmet right now. So that's really cool that she popped out for you that way. You had a friend who was in hospice care and had a dream that they came and said goodbye. Oh, I hope that this whole process for you, because I know it's not one of those things where you can be like, well, I hope that turns out well. I understand this was the situation with my grandmother too, the same one I'm talking about. I hope the situation goes as gracefully and beautifully as it can, and that everybody gets the space and the time and the attention that they need in the process. I'm glad you had that dream to help out with it as well. Oh, cool. Amber, you got a picture with Sekhmet or of Sekhmet, which is cool. A lot of the time when I get pictures of Sekhmet statues, they come out blurry because she's like, no, this is a moment where we work one-on-one. This isn't for other people. So the fact that you got a picture is really good. It's a good sign. Jessa was preparing for surgery, and when you woke up that morning, kept hearing the song, Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer. It was Grammy's favorite song. Aw. And that's how I knew she's not only with me, but wanted me to know it was her and that your surgery would be fine. And it was great. I love a story that works out like that. Awesome. So great that it was great. Cool. I'm a little bit caught up here. Liz says, I love that you got led to Sekhmet. You would know, Liz. I've been praying and offering red Irish beer and candles to her for sisters and cats. Health. Her cat seems to be doing better. Oh, your sister's cat's health. I'm really glad your sister's cat is doing better. Um, yeah, Sekhmet is associated with healing, among other things. Sekhmet does a lot of stuff. If you're doing the deep work, Sekhmet will do it with you. If you're not doing the deep work and Sekhmet comes out of nowhere, she's calling you into the deep work. So it typically goes along with that. I'm really glad to hear that, Liz. Journal, check. Yes. Uh, the Minky, hello. Spirit has been using water magic to help me align my goals, dreams, and timelines lately. I love that, especially since Mercury, who does a lot with dreaming, is in Pisces, who does a lot with dreaming. The moon will also do a lot with dreaming, but there's a Mercury in Pisces talisman I have that's actually a Mercury dream talisman. I think it's from Agrippa's grimoire. So this is Pisces being a water sign as well. It's really attuned to the energy of the astrology. So just some more validation there for you. Rocio, my calico was having a health scare the past few days. Naturally, I was a blubbering mess. Liz and I ended up doing the illness spell that I shared in Japan with the water, and she's doing better. Oh, I'm so glad. That water spell is handy. It is handy. It helped me a lot in Japan. I am very sensitive to changes in climate, just of all types. I used it every night there, and it was very helpful for me too. I'm really glad it's working for you guys and your cat too, Rocio. Okay. Angela appreciated. And I even said that to Dan. I was like, I had a dream that I was president last night. And he's like, you'd be good at that. I appreciate the confidence. But the first thing I would do, I'm going to tell you this, and I've thought about this before. The first thing I would do is take everybody in Congress down to Disney World and make them watch that in the American Adventure section, the show that happens there with the animatronics and everything, where they really honor history and how much we've been through, and how the biggest challenge that we face is a life of too much complacency. I would make them watch that. And then I would make them write down what they felt about it and what they're thinking. And we would do a lot of journal work. So it'd be more like a school day, I think. But still, that's the first thing I would do, because we need to get everybody back on the, hey, it's not about me, it's about the country and the people in it and our history and everybody's, right to exist point. But that's just me. So yeah, if that's what you want in the Oval Office for that day. I've always said I will be president for 3 days. And I imagine that I would be able to fix a lot by then, because I would be making sure that we're doing like coaching work with the actual people who run the government to get them to be more aligned with the people that they are representing. But that's where I would be. Yeah. Also, oh, Rosia, you asked Anubis for help in making whatever path she was going through, and had a dream last night that you were back in Egypt. Oh, I miss Egypt. People keep asking me how it went, and I'm just like, it went like I want to go back right now, with all the amazing people that we got to be there with. Oh, wow. Jenny, I'm glad that the story turned out in a way that feels like the best thing for you. I'm really, really glad to hear that. Misty says, I dreamt that someone unexpectedly had a CB radio and knew the trucker lingo. Then in a meeting at work, someone randomly mentioned a CB radio, and I told them about my dream. The coworker was getting a CB signs lately. That's amazing. You know what it makes me think of? My dad and I used to watch Smokey and the Bandit. If you've heard the song Convoy, it's in Smokey and the Bandit as well. So that's what I think about when people talk about that. Is anyone working with Freya right now? Jessa is interested. And Jenny says, thank you. It was very surprising and nice all at once. We got to love that. Ren, dream visiting a haunted house with a friend preparing to sleep in a room covered in spiders, looked up at him and said, only you could make me feel this comfortable in a room full of spiders. Yes. Yeah. I don't know that even the person I trust most could make me feel comfortable in a room full of spiders. I would be talking to the spiders. That's typically what I do. But yeah, wow. Such a good movie. Jenny, you know the movie. I love that. Yeah, my dad really liked Burt Reynolds, so I've seen a lot of those movies. The 70s are in me. They are alive in my mind because of how I grew up with my dad. Rocio, you love spiders. Now, anyway, yeah. Eastbound and down, load it up and truck it. Yes, Jenny, you just made my morning. That's really fun. Thank you for that. Yeah, I appreciate spiders. My grandma, same one who showed up in the dream, was really good at just talking to all things nature. She would see a spider and be like, "Well, what are you doing there?" And then just move them to a safer place. I take a little bit more of a detached approach. I will say, "Hey, this isn't a safe place for you. You should probably find somewhere else." And then I will walk away and give them some time to not be there anymore. And that's kind of what I hope for. Bees and I get along poorly. Um, when I was a kid, they would just seek me out to sting me. I swear, even my family would say so. So we even had my house, my room especially, was infested with wasps as a child. So I'm not a fan. Would prefer not to deal with them. Yeah, I talk to them like they're puppies. Yeah, like if you just pretend that everything's a puppy, nothing's really that scary until the puppy stings you, which is a little rude. But like when a wasp gets in the house, that used to be a deal breaker for me. When I was a kid, if a wasp got in the house, I was not in that room until somebody else dealt with it. Now they always end up in my office because my office leads to the backyard. And I'm just like, you need to stay over there. And if you make it easy for me to get you out, I will get you out. But if not, you just got to stay over there. And that's the agreement. Yeah, no wasps. No, thank you. Yeah. Oh, Jenny, I'm so glad these lives help you. That's awesome. You're so kind. You gotten better with spiders? Yeah. Yeah, so I actually had a client once who had, a close bond with Arachnia as a goddess, so can appreciate that a little bit. Good for that. Most of the deities that I work with are either Abrahamic or Egyptian, um, at least the ones I work with most directly. Sometimes I pop in with Athena as well. Typically, your wisdom deities and I hang out the most, which I guess is not much of a surprise. But yeah, they're the ones who kind of speak my language the most and I feel most comfortable with. So we hang. It's fun. Yeah. Oh, cool. So um let's see. I'm gonna look something up really quickly. Uh, I want to look something up here so that I can potentially do, yeah. So would you like mosquitoes seek you out? Oof, Jessa. It makes me think Dominique's not on this, but Dominique had some interactions with mosquitoes in in Egypt, and I'm looking forward to seeing Dominique this weekend too, and making sure she's feeling okay. Um, we have a little bit over 10 minutes left. Does anybody else have any questions that they want to bring up or anything like that? Um, ooh, and a jumping spider. Content creators, yeah, jumping spider, they had a moment on social media, and that, especially the little ones, when they try to make them cute, I can appreciate that. I really like when we personify something to the point where we can relate to it better. Makes the fear go away, which is great. Yeah, so I'm going to do like a really quick call for questions, certainly not the last call, but if you would like, I also can go into a little bit about Chiron and do a little short rant about Chiron and like why it's a normal thing we put into charts these days. If not, I will still do it, just a different day. During the solar eclipse, I had a wild dream of looking out the window and the sky was pale pink. Outside the sun, a full moon and a third powerful circle rocked my spiritual senses. Curious. Liz, that is because I'm having a migraine today. I don't know that I'll be able to intuitively bring in something as easily as I normally would have. Um, but it's funny because so that was during the solar eclipse. You had a dream looking out the window. The sky was pale pink. The sun, a full moon. So the sun and the moon were not eclipsed in your dream because it was a full moon. Uh, third powerful circle. Yeah, Liz, I'm going to see you this weekend. So bring that up with me this weekend, and we might be able to dig into it a little bit more. Because unfortunately, my headache's not really conducive to intuitive pings right now, and I apologize for that. Does Chiron go retrograde? Great. Yes, it does. All planetary bodies in the sky, except for the sun and the moon, do go retrograde. All of them. The asteroids, all of them, because they are operating in a circle that doesn't go around the Earth. So from our perspective, they're eventually going to go like behind the sun or on the other side of the sun, and therefore they're going to look like they're going back and forth, because from our perspective, we only see it like a 2D situation, but it's actually a circle. And so if you see me doing this right now, you know I'm making a circle. But what does it look like to you? Same, right? So I'm not making a circle anymore, but it kind of looks the same because of the 2D perspective. Um, yes, cool. Down for anything. Um, how is or what is Chiron? Cool. Let's see. Made myself watch those videos. Yeah, cool. All right. Let's talk about Chiron. Now, Chiron as a mythological figure makes me really happy. I like Chiron. In my chart, Chiron actually is closely conjunct to planets, so I do have a close relationship with Chiron. But the issue that I have is that Chiron, of all of the asteroids, has suddenly made it into the automatic settings or default settings of even our free chart websites. So if you go onto something like astro.com, and I think even astroseek.com, which is the one I recommend the most, you will find that Chiron is on there. It looks kind of like a little key. It's got a circle, a line, and then like a V, of kind of like a K coming out of it. So I don't know, it's a bad example, but it looks like that. And if you see that on your chart, that's what the symbolic representation of Chiron is. Now, why astrologers suddenly chose Chiron, I don't know. And I will research this more. Maybe we'll do a Chiron part 2 at some point. But let me tell you what Chiron is. So Chiron is actually a dead comet. So it's the composition of a comet nucleus, which is just whatever's left over after a comet runs out of steam. So it's basically an asteroid, but it used to be a comet. And that means it's tiny. It comes in from way out there, goes around, and then its orbit takes like 60-ish years. So in human design and stuff, you'll hear a lot about Chiron returns. This irks me a little bit, because why are we worrying about a Chiron return when there are so many other things, including things that are going on around the same time, like your second Saturn return, that are more likely to be giving you better information as to how you can actually work with the situation. My gripe about the way human design incorporates Chiron returns, especially if you're a projector like me, which is probably why I have a problem with it, is that they say until your Chiron return, you're sitting there. And I think this is actually a line 2 or 6 or something in human design. I am certified in understanding human design, but I don't agree with it, because I feel, and this is my personal opinion, that the person who created it, not the people who practice it now, but the person who created it, just really appropriated a lot of other divinatory techniques, mushed them together, and then said, this is how you raise your children. And I'm not a fan of that. And also, the history of it is a former advertiser went to Ibiza and channeled something over 5 days. But we don't get anything else more than that. It's just trust this guy. And I don't, because I'm a Scorpio moon, right? So I've read the books. I've reached out to sources. I've said, hey, is there more to this? And they're like, no, we just trust this guy who renamed himself to be Ra Uruhu. And that can work for some people. And I know that it does offer some information that validates some people. And this is not a human design rant, but it's kind of sidetracking that way. And so the thing that really confused me as I was investigating human design was that you have to wait for this Chiron return. And I'm like, why are we giving so much weight to Chiron when there are so many other planetary bodies? Like, I feel like it's spreading the focus so thin that it's actually causing more confusion, because you can't actually say, oh, hi, Saturn, I see you're working with me right now. I'm willing to cooperate. It's just saying, oh, well, you're stuck. Wait until you're 60 or so, and then maybe things will get better. And I know, even in certain circumstances of comparing people with different, even human design things, but also their chart, that you can get stuff done. And I don't like the box that it tends to put people in. So when we look at Chiron and say, well, why Chiron? Honestly, there's not much of a reason why Chiron, to my knowledge, because Chiron is a small body that is an old comet, and it represents the wounded healer. Why? Chiron represents the wounded healer, and this is legit. It represents the wounded healer because Chiron in mythology is actually the mythological figure who really helped to develop pharmacy for healing, trained heroes like Achilles and all that stuff. If you think about the Disney movie of Hercules and you think about Phil, Phil represents Chiron. Chiron was a centaur, not a satyr, but artistic license, I guess. Eventually, Chiron was immortalized as Sagittarius, the other centaur that we know in the sky. So Chiron was immortalized in that sense, which is really cool. Again, when you go back to the Hercules movie and think about being written in the stars and think like, Phil, you actually get to be there yourself. Wow. But back to Chiron. Chiron is really cool because he is the wounded healer. He trains heroes. He makes sure that your mess becomes your message, or, all of those things. Your pain becomes your power. Those things that get really important. And I think my theory from experience, and I would vet this with other people when I have a chance, but my theory is that because of the theme of wounded healer, the New Age movement really liked this. And so it became a whole thing of, I've been through so much, but if I can make my mess my message, here's where I'm going to go. So Chiron got really popular in astrology, likely in the 80s to 90s, as the whole Project Hindsight was still translating our Hellenistic texts and giving us more to work with. So this is a residual from the astrology that was most prominent in the 70s up to the 90s. Again, Chiron is a valid thing. It's a valid placement. My gripe is Chiron is an asteroid. If you're going to get into asteroid work, which I do some of, and Demetra George pioneers, right? So it is valid. It can be incorporated into traditional astrology. They couldn't see them at the time, so they didn't know about them. We imagine if they did know about them, how would they incorporate them? And we do our best with that. And it's actually working really well. Chiron is, and apologies if this kind of bothers some people a little bit. Doesn't bother me. There are 4 other asteroids that are the primary asteroids. You have Sirius, you have Pallas Athena. I'm going to have to remember all of them, but I probably won't be able to in this moment. Anyway, there's Sirius, there's Athena, there's 2 other ones, and I can't believe I'm not remembering them. I'm going to Google them so I can come up with them. But while I'm Googling them, the thing that I have there, oh, for real? Mercury's getting me here. It literally like copy and pasted a bunch of other stuff. There we go. So the 4 major asteroids, Ceres, Pallas, they're saying Hygeia. That's not true. Juno and Vesta. Ceres, Pallas, Juno, and Vesta. These are all goddess deities. The cool thing about asteroids is they finally introduced feminine deity energies, where in traditional astrology, we only have the moon. Thank you, Gabe. Gabe, hi. Yes, Ravage HD. Hi, Gabe. Thank you. We got there. So we're in astrology. And Gabe, if you want to add in your ideas on why Chiron became such a big deal, I would love that. I consider you a really great resource for getting some other opinions. But where we finally had some female energies coming in, because prior to this we had the moon, who was also a sect-light, so that was like not as heavy of a if you want to attribute something feminine, you only had Venus. Venus had to rule all of those things. Now, even though asteroids can add a lot of nuance to a situation, I don't throw them into like an original natal promise until I'm ready to layer over some other nuances to make sure like all of these things are there in the fate and the fortune. Now let's talk about the lifestyle and some of the archetypes that are showing up in the life. That's where the asteroids come in. And we finally get our more feminine deities being represented. And of all of the ones that got thrown into a chart, it's Chiron, not because he's a bad dude, but because he's just another masculine figure that they put into a chart before allowing these 4 options, at least one of them, to be represented. Makes me a little sad. Chiron is the wounded healer. That's awesome. It does do really cool things. See if it's aspecting something in a really close way in your chart. Let's say between 1 to 3 degrees, conjunct something is going to really pop off. But also, why not at least if you're going to do that, and I know it clutters the chart, if you work with asteroids and fixed stars and all the things, your chart becomes incomprehensibly busy, which is why it helps to layer things in, to do one thing first, then look at this once you have an understanding, and then look at this. And it kind of works in phases, which is why it takes me like an hour and a half to prepare a chart for a consultation. But it's worth it because you get so much context. So where Chiron is the wounded healer, for sure, the placement of Chiron just randomly does not need to be there any more than the other asteroids do. So my gripe, my rant would be, why did we pick Chiron when we have so many other deities that we could choose from? The primary ones also finally giving voice to some feminine aspects of the pantheons. I don't know. I really don't know, other than the fact that perhaps in the New Age movement, the idea of making your mess your message, becoming the wounded healer, appealed to people who were in the New Age movement, who were in that mindset and really enjoying the idea of taking that. I do think the wounded healer stuff is the main thing with Chiron's popularity, along with the novelty. Yeah, cool. So it sounds like I'm on a similar track as other thinkers with this. Thank you, Gabe, as always. So to me, yes, it's important. Yes, it's valid. Yes, I do look at it as a point. Yes, it's valid, or it's prominent in my own chart. Is it any more important than the other 4 or more? No. And yeah, Gabe, I talked about how Chiron sort of becomes Sagittarius in the myth. But again, does that mean that it should be on the chart as a default setting for people who are just encountering astrology on like astro.com and stuff? To me, I don't think so. I think you should be able to kind of turn on asteroids, and that you should then be able to see some and work with it from there. We need better functions when it comes to asteroid work. Programs, and there are more and more, they are coming, but we need something that services asteroid work better because there are so many of them and they can be all over the place. Right now, we work with an asteroid ephemeris, and you just have to look for the points in your chart and see if any of them match up to, literally there's over 2,000 asteroids that are named right now. So there's a lot to work with, which means there's a lot of opportunity for things to show up in your chart for sure. But we are still in a space where the programs and the ability to find them and really locate them is difficult. When I had a consultation with Demetra 2 weeks ago, I was aware, because I've done workshops on asteroids with Demetra, I was aware of some of the asteroids in my chart. She found some that I had always missed. And I was like, geez, there's even more. And they did have meaning. So again, it brings a really great way to give some nuance into the archetypes of what you live through. Chiron does this as well. I would not say in my experience, though, that he does it any better than the other ones. And it would be nice to see some of those other energies given a little bit more front and center if we're going to do that at all. But like I said, my opinion is, let's do it by layers. If we're going to do it this way, there's like a strata of astrology that we could get into, where you get into the natal promise using the original 7 planets. And then maybe on top of that, you do the transpersonal planets of, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And then on top of that, you can say, okay, I know all this now. Are there any asteroids that are doing something? And even before that, you would probably get into the fixed stars. So there's a lot to work with in astrology. There's a lot of options for you to be able to follow if you're interested. But if you do want to schedule a chat with me, and if you have an asteroid in mind or a deity in mind that you want me to look for specifically, you can either tell me during the consultation or beforehand in the form that you get to fill out, and I'll do some extra study beforehand when I prepare your chart. You can schedule a consultation with me through my website, and it will be there for you. Layered mapping would be nice. I'm telling you, I think Nichepso is doing something similar to this. I will be helping to beta test that as soon as they release the beta, and I look forward to it. But in the meantime, thank you guys for being here. Let me know what you want me to rant about next, either in the comments of this video or otherwise. I have some ideas. I am willing to rant about anything that I feel like I am equipped to rant on. And peer review to me is always appreciated. So thank you guys. I appreciate you. I will not be here next week, but the following week I will be here. And I want to teach you a little bit about metaphorical timing in astrology. And so don't worry, I'm going to tell you what that means. But come back in 2 weeks to hear about it, because I've run out of time. Thank you guys so much. You can also join the free tier of the Modern School of Ancient Wisdom. I explain it a little bit in there, and that'll launch next Sunday. So you'll get some stuff there too. Thank you, Gabe. Thank you, everyone. Have a really wonderful Mercury direct day. And don't worry, things get a little bit better every day from here when we get to Venus direct. So that's super nice. Take care. Don't argue with each other. Remember, it's you and the other person against the problem, not against yourselves. And I'm sure you'll be fine. Have an amazing week.